Karen the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been with us before. This week I am going to be doing more on the black and white quilt, as you may have surmised, and doing basically the same thing as last time when I had another one of these Star Wars-y kind of looking blocks, which I didn't remember what I was trying to do when I was making this, but you know, they're kind of fun, and I had little circles and everything around it. But as with the last one, it really isn't something I would use in a quilt probably, so I'm going to try slicing it. Now last time we did something like that. I think there were maybe 3, but so as to avoid doing the same thing as we did last time, let's try something else. As always, we may like it, we may not, but we'll be making changes. So I'm going to slice this diagonally, trying to leave a decent amount of room there if we want it. That's going to have changes. There's no doubt about that. Shall we do something like this? Maybe. Yeah, what the heck. We're all about exploring, right? And I'm going to cut right through that corner. This is going to get lost, of course, in the seam. And so now we have these, and we always have the option of just starting to swap things out and see how they look, and that's really not a whole lot different from the first thing, except now it looks like a fish with 2 legs and a, oh my gosh. You wouldn't say eyebrows, that's not what I mean, but you know what I mean. You know better than I do what I mean. And that is just not going to cut it, so to speak. So what I'm trying to do is avoid too much of black or too much of white. This has much more black than white, which I think was less true of the other one. Now I've forgotten what the other one looked like, but let's see if we can make some changes here. Then we're going to do this. And of course, we'll be adding things onto this as well. But I like to just kind of rearrange things at the outset and see what it would look like if we did something like that, which is, I don't know, fine, but it's kind of random. Like anything I do isn't random, but so if we have, these will echo each other, which is nice. We do this instead, and adding in will happen at some point as well. Oh, for some reason I like that better. And like that. Not wild about that. We don't have to use all of the pieces either, so this one may bow out. Or not. Time will tell. What if those kind of play off each other on a diagonal there? And already she's brought it back. That's the way we roll here, and that's just putting it back the way it was. All right, this is something I think I can work with okay. This, I'm not sure, so I'm going to set these aside while I work on this, and then these may build out. You may have liked something I did earlier better, and that would certainly be your choice and be perfectly fine, because this is all about what makes you happy, right? This is, I think, almost better because then that's, you've got this diagonal going this way and that one going that way. So apparently we are working on a diagonal piece, huh? Maybe. Okay, now now it looks like a stork or a flamingo or something with the long legs. Ay. I had an exhausting day yesterday. It was a good day, but it was an exhausting day, and I'm not sure my brain has caught up with me yet. Or my body hasn't caught up with my brain. I don't know. There will be much rambling, so if you cannot tolerate that today, I'd bail now. This is too much black. These need to be closer together or have something that ties them together. You all know I love black. And black and white is my favorite. But in this case, remember these are going to be potentially, as I envision it, moving out from the center, which is much darker, has larger pieces. So as it's moving out, I want it to transition into more negative space or white as it gets to the edges of the quilt. So I want this to be not necessarily centered in the quilt, but I want the edges to be white. And now I'm thinking these are the pieces that I want to work with. Now, remembering that, yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, this is going to be a bird with long legs. I want to put something in here, and remembering that we want to have some gray in here for more depth. I might do some curves in here, you know, a couple of curves that are gradually going probably from the lighter gray to the darker in this case. And then I'll do something over here so that I don't have that much negative space for that's in black. So let me pull out some grays and we'll see what we can do here. I have a scrap of light gray here, which this I think will fit in here. If I can remember how I was going to do that. There we are. And then I will be sure to give me enough room that I can make a curve here and trim it to whatever I need it to be and attach it to this piece. And there really isn't enough room to do much with 3 different graduation of tone on the grays, so there probably will just be 2. So my first step is going to be cutting what I think I would like that curve to be. I think I would like it to be, say, wider down here and then go that direction, but we'll see how it turns out. So I'm going to start about here, and this is a pretty small area, small length, so I don't want this to be too, oops, I'm going against what I said I was going to do, but that's what happens. So this is going to be the curve against that. And then now I'm going to cut a curve. Here's an extra piece to use later. I'm going to cut a curve to match that and then extend out this way, so we'll have room to even that out a little bit. That may get changed in the future, of course, but for now, so I'm going to go ahead, mimic this curve. I will link below the video on how I do these gentle curves without pins, etc., etc. So up next is this piece. Here is the curve finished, and I wanted to show you this before I've trimmed it because I expect there are probably some people who are saying you're wasting an awful lot of fabric, you cut more than you end up needing, and then you have all this left over, which this is not, improv piecing for me anyway, is not a zero waste opportunity. It is, by its very nature, I'm not planning it, so I can't get the exact amount of fabric, and it's kind of fluid how I'm going to place things. But also the pieces that I cut off, I don't throw them away. I'm going to keep this, and these will probably show up somewhere in this quilt or another quilt. I'll put some photos here of Greco-Deco to remind you of that, and then also the pieces that I had left over from doing Greco-Deco that I ultimately decided not to use, and they're going to come together in a new quilt. So just a note that while it may look like I'm just tossing fabric aside, I am not. All right, here's our curve. So now I need to decide how I want to place this so that I can optimize that curve. So it would be, I'm gonna find something to, all right, let's put this up here. So in the end, it's going to look something like that, minus all of that. And I may or may not like it. So I'm going to cut it the way I think I would use it, and then see what we think. Do I want more of the light or more of the dark? I think probably more of the light, but I have to make sure I have enough when I do seams that I don't lose it completely. Some of it will get cut off, and that's all right. This looks funky. It's not looking the way I intended it to look. Doesn't mean I won't use it or that it won't work at the end, but I just want to, this looks like about the best here. And this is going across there, so, well, that could get trimmed too. It's just a funky kind of day. All right, so I'm going to trim this here. There's another piece I can use later. And then this would come across this way, maybe, or there may be another piece that cuts across there. So what I will do, this is a little hard to see against the green mat. Would this turn out to be more of that dark gray than I want? Maybe. So I could shift it yet again. I may end up not liking this at all, actually, now that I'm looking at it. No, that isn't right either. I would rather have them more evenly divided, I think. Are some of you still with me? I feel like I'm just fading into endless meandering. And if we do that, well, I'm going to cut it. We'll see where it's at, and I can use this somewhere else, if not right here. And yes, I can probably use a little piece of that somewhere, not the whole thing. All right, now if we have this across here, oh, look at that, we made it. Or maybe not. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm gonna say I don't feel great about it, or I wouldn't keep questioning it. Maybe I need something more in here. I need a circle, don't I? If I come in with another curve so that, oh, that's better, isn't it? So that that's just a thin strip here, but we have a little bit of gray still there. Now this is going to end up being smaller because I still have seams to do there. But what I could do is pull this back a little so that I've allowed for a bit of a seam there. And that may end up, this gray, lighter gray may end up not being much of anything, but pardon my elbow as I come around the bend here. And yes, I'm watching my fingers carefully. And so I will sew that, see how that looks. Maybe I'm just not happy with that gray. I've finished the curve, and when I laid it down, I had it going the opposite direction, and then I thought, you know, I don't hate it this direction either. But then I think I want something else there. All right, let me ponder that for a minute. Come back to the original positioning, and I'm thinking I might even do something like this, where this gets sliced off a little more. And then when I add something on here, it can balance this out or reflect this or something. I figured out this looks like origami to me somehow with the straight edges you come up with origami. All right, and then that could even be cut off a bit. I think it's a little funky, but I'm going to keep going with it and see what happens. This may be a piece that ends up somewhere else. I don't know. So I'm going to sew this strip. I'll cut this strip, then I will sew those, and then this piece can go onto those. Now that I have that, I can kind of decide, do I want this further down here? Don't like that at all. Not horrible, but I think I want this to kind of hug that piece, but still not liking all of that gray. So what if we angle this? Thusly. That's better. That was just too much gray. Gray is just an accent sort of shading role. It's not a main design color. Okay. And remembering that I need to have seam allowance there, I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch line on the line that I want to cut, so I can at least take that part of it into account, that half of the seam into account. Hang on to that, pull that out. And now if I can just remember exactly where I had that placed, since I didn't mark it, this piece might end up somewhere. And then this piece will fit on there. Well, that's definitely looking better with less of that lighter gray. I wonder what would happen if we slip something else in between there. Maybe a tiny bit of turquoise, maybe a tiny bit of white, maybe some black. Definitely liking this. Adds more interest to it. Keeps the eye moving. And well, sometimes I'm a minimalist, sometimes I am not. And I'm thinking about, well, you probably can't see much difference between these two, but this is a greener turquoise than I've been using, but I think I like it. I want to have a variety of turquoise, which also adds some contrast and depth and interest to it. So kind of seeing how that looks. So I'm going to add in a strip that is going to be, what is that, 1/4 inch there probably? About that. So I will want to cut this at 3/4 inch. And these, of course, are going to lose a 1/4 inch here too. So, all right, I'm going to add that strip in because I like that. It had it originally planned where it would be something like that, and that just looks awkward to me. That has always bothered me. I am coming to find out. So what I think, although this kind of recreates what it was in the first place, I was letting construction guide me in moving this down because I didn't want to lose too much of this as I was coming across, and that's my limit unless I add something else up in there. That's going to get cut off here. And then likewise down here or over to the side there would be some. So I slid it down, and I actually like this better. So it's more of a shape rather than a character. And you know I love to find things in in these shapes, but I'm just really thinking that I want that further down. And then it becomes more of a just a shape. And it will look different after I get the seam in. There's no doubt about that. So I'm going to do it about there. I will come back with that and proceed. Here's this piece with some trimming done. And that's a funky little bit there. And I like it better than I thought I was going to. This is somehow, that's got to change. I don't know how. There is this lovely little curve here, which may not be apparent looking straight down, but it's just a short little curve there. And I've got a curve here. So I'm almost thinking that somewhere in here I want to do another curve, and it may be that I want another white curve over here, say, so that I'm mimicking that or echoing those curves. So I am going to just dive in with that, and it doesn't have to be a curve that goes all the way. It doesn't have to be the full length of that. So I think I'm going to do, I don't know, just do myself a gentle little curve there. Here's a piece to use elsewhere. And then I'll have some white there. Oh, I just like that curve. I really like that curve. Grab some white here out of the stash. Some stringy white. And be a curve like that. I like that better. Do I want something here though? Almost feels like it needs a little bit of gray over here, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm looking at this gray. I'm not sure how wild I am about that right now. What if we put some of this dark gray in here? Just a very narrow bit. Or we could put in some narrow strips of gray here to pull that gray in a little bit. Give me some, this is vertical and diagonal, add in some horizontal bits in there. That may end up being changed out entirely, but we don't have to worry about that yet until we're sure we don't like it anymore. And we can kind of mimic that gray here with this piece. I'm telling you, those spatial relationships for me are bad, aren't they? All right, Karen, this is a two-sided piece. You should be able to figure this out. All right, so we're going to have like a curve up against there. Won't be that wide, but that's going to be better, I think. We shall see. And that piece may work. See, I don't waste all this stuff. Except that is such a lovely curve. I like that curve. And I don't want to cut this curve until I've decided whether or not I'm putting strips in there. Let me find some gray strips. These poor pieces of gray that I used as stand-ins for strips. And I generally like 3, but let's see what I think here. 3 different widths is nice. They don't need to be evenly spaced. You need to be spaced, Karen. All right. Oh, that's a whole lot better. That is much, much better. I'm not sure I want them those widths. I happened upon, would you believe it, a circle. And that might be something that I need to make me feel better about all this gray, that it's got some black on top of it. Yeah, that makes it better. Okay. I always try to think of a way to fix something before I tear it out when I'm doing improv anyway. All right. So I am going to cut this white probably about here and piece in those strips and then add that on. This will get added on in the end. Circles just make it, don't they? Even if I didn't love circles like this, that would really just, I think, make it. And we'll tie in with at least one of the other of these pieces we've done that will have a circle in it. Yay! I'm almost tempted to try a little bit of turquoise in there, except that will look like an eyeball, and I don't want that in this quilt. So that's what we're going to do. And I'll be back and we can assess the situation then. Here we are with the circle attached because I just think it needs that. And that will probably be it for today. I just pulled this out to try to gather things together. And I thought, well, you know, let's see what it looks like if we do this. And actually, there, I don't mind it so much. And that's assuming that this doesn't all come along with it. I don't want to cut it now, but if we just imagine that that's there, then it's got kind of an interesting thing here. I might want to do some horizontal lines over here to echo this. They wouldn't necessarily have to be coming here. It might be something like one strip of white here and a couple down here, so it's almost a mitered effect down there. It's something we might explore. I thought I was going to dislike it. I don't know if I was going to hate it, let's be honest. But I kind of don't. Oh, and the other thing that I like about it is that this is going to be toward the perimeter of the main design so that it's blending out into white, transitioning to just white around it. Then these will be good for that transition. So this white will lead into more white. So it could be that this even ends up as a curve and then have white spokes, maybe with a turquoise or a gray thrown in there for good measure. But this could just be a series of spokes coming out. And then it also echoes this curve here. Then this piece could end up there instead. I don't know. I'm thinking that's a real possibility. We might explore that next week. I wanted to start laying this out next week, and maybe I still will, but I think this is worth some exploring too. So I need to break up this black. It's too, would be too abrupt a change, I think. Even if we had some spokes here, I think that would be too, not really a transition, it would just be white. So I would have to think more about that. But it's a possibility. And hopefully next time we will get to some laying out to see where we are and what we might need to do to start putting this together, or Alicing it, as we would say on this channel. I think that's it for today. Hope you have a good week, and I hope to see you next week. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.